All right, in this video, we are going to look at legacies. Legacies are made in the tournament, and we're going to go through 5 legacies that are on the line where these players and coaches are desperate to do well in the tournament. And yes, I know everybody wants to do well in the tournament, but I think these 5 players and coaches are more motivated than anybody else because they don't want to have to hear about it. I was going to review the games from today, but then I thought about it and it's like, I don't have a lot to say about them. I'd rather do a live stream and just take questions. So I might try to do a live stream tomorrow. As well, if you're one of the 300 viewers that watched my last video, I apologize. Oh my God, my picks I made were so awful. I went over, I think, for all 5 picks. I've never been so happy that nobody watched a video of mine before. If I give a betting tip, bet against Back to Sports. That's the best advice I can give anybody. All right, before we start, if you like the content, then please subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Okay, let's get into this. The first legacy on the line, which will be on Sunday, is Hailey Van Lith, as she will be facing off versus her former team, Louisville. Yes, Jeff Walz got it done. They held on to beat Nebraska. And of course, that was another garbage pick from Back to Sports, as I had Nebraska covering. But I'm fine with losing this one, as it gives us Hailey Van Lith and Jeff Walz, who is winning the breakup. I did that a year or 2 years ago when it was all big, and when Hailey was at LSU. It clearly did not go well for her, with Caitlin Clark just tearing her up in the Elite 8 game, her being lost in the huddle and blamed for all the woes of LSU. But under the radar, Jeff Walz went out in the first round last year, so getting the win over Nebraska was a big deal for Walz. So both he and Hailey have done a good job of bouncing back from a tough 23-24. But the question is, if Hailey goes down in this game, and mind you, that would be a big upset, I think. TCU is favored by 13.5. But if she loses to Jeff Walz and Louisville in this game, it reaffirms that they won the breakup, if you like, because she left. She didn't have the modicum of success at LSU or TCU if Louisville gets the win. If she goes on with TCU and progresses to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 or the Final Four, then she's just the modern portal player that we're going to see a lot more of. But if she goes down, oh my God, Louisville is going to clown her something fierce, the fans, which will likely be made worse if she goes to the post-game press conference. Now, if TCU does make it through, then the next legacy on the line is Niele Ivey of Notre Dame. Now, so far, she's a good young coach who's made it to the Sweet 16 the last 3 years. I suspect if she cannot go beyond the Sweet 16 this year, she is going to hear about it, as Notre Dame is loaded, obviously, with Olivia Miles, Hidalgo, Citron, Westbeld, Carlin, King. They just have so many good players, and it would just have to be a disappointment if they cannot get beyond the Sweet 16, even though TCU is really good. And unfortunately, this is just due to the collapse they had at the end of the season. They really shouldn't be a 3 seed. But here they are, and if they are able to regroup and beat TCU, then that's a real feather in Ivey's cap, as she re-got them together, avenged an earlier loss at the Cayman Island tournament to TCU, and then they might be on their way to the Final Four. I think they'd feel pretty comfortable going up against Texas again, which would be a good matchup if the favorites win, and that's what the Elite 8 game is. The next legacy on the line is Juju Watkins and Lindsay Gottlieb, as they are desperate to make it beyond the Elite 8 into the Final Four to take that next step. But likely to be in their way yet again, like last year, will be UConn. Now, USC has to feel pretty good about this matchup, as they took down UConn at the Mohegan Sun Arena, or essentially it was a home game for UConn. So they would have that confidence. The downside is trying to beat UConn twice in the same year. But hey, they did that to UCLA, although they still didn't get the higher seed. They're the 4th seed, unfortunately for them, which is why they are playing UConn but I won't go on about that. But speaking of UCLA, that is the next team under the pump or under pressure to secure their legacy. Specifically, Corey Close needs to make it past the Elite Eight and get to a Final Four, and this is the year to do it. But much how Louisville is lurking for Hailey Van Lith, a ghost of her past, a ghost of UCLA's past, that being LSU, is the 3 seed in Spokane 1, and potentially it will be a rematch if LSU can get by number 2 seed NC State. And it's pretty clear I am hoping for that rematch. That would be great for content creators like me, and it would be interesting to see if UCLA can finally slay the dragon, and what better way to slay the dragon than avenging their loss from the previous year of LSU and riding into the Final Four. Now, for both Corey Close and UCLA and Juju Watkins and Lindsey Gottlieb at USC, if they don't make the Final Four, yes, it's not the end of the world, but that's all you're going to hear about in the offseason and next year. It's either make the Final Four or bust, and that would especially be a lot of pressure on UCLA and Lauren Betts, because presumably next year will be her last year at UCLA. And that causes pressure just to further ramp up, because you only get one last bite of that apple. And that brings me up to the number one, or the biggest legacy maker in this tournament. It is obviously Paige Bueckers, and it's either win the championship or go home. In terms of making her legacy, I don't think there's a lot of difference if she went down to USC and Juju Watkins in the Elite Eight versus if she loses in the Final Four. I don't think there's much of a difference in that. If she loses in the Final Four or in the championship game, it is not good enough. It is just win championship or go home. Because, and there's a chance that she won't win the championship, and that's fine. That UConn's had players that have done that. Napheesa Collier, Katie Lou Samuelson, and it doesn't mean that your career is a failure or that you won't have success in the pros. Obviously, Napheesa Collier is an unbelievable player. The problem with Paige Bueckers and her situation, there was so much hype when she came in and she launched like a rocket her freshman year. It will undoubtedly feel like a disappointment if she does not leave UConn with the championship. But if she does get the chip, then all of a sudden her UConn legacy is up there with Lobo, Taurasi, Bird, and Stewart. She doesn't have as many championships as they would have, but she's overcome injury and adversity, and she plays basketball the right way. Yes, she's better than Caitlin Clark because she plays team ball, and that's why UConn chose Paige Bueckers over Caitlin Clark. You can see the argument going down that track, which will irritate Caitlin Clark fans to no end. Now it's over to you. Do you agree with me that these are big, important games for players and coaches, which will help really define their long-term legacies, or am I overhyping it? Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night.